Are you gonna make it happen today? Or will you just settle for another delay? Come on, you gotta make it happen now. Come on.
Hello, hello?
Hey, I hear you.
Oh no. There.
Hey.
You get these fancy microphones and they don't work. I think that was me, man. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's all good, man. It's all good. It's so funny. It's like one of my strong beliefs is like, I truly do not understand how we put a man on the moon, but we can't figure out computer audio and Bluetooth.
How
Like,
we
how
went
is the
through a
world not figuring it out?
pandemic and everyone had to do it, yet it still sucks. I mean,
Right?
but
It's
I'm
like we can
Canadian. I
fly
feel I
somewhere to the
have to
moon.
apologize, so I'll say
It's all good.
sorry for that and we'll, move on. But how you
Oh,
doing?
it's all good. It's all good. It's great to see you, man. I'm so excited
Yeah.
on what you're building and creating in this next chapter for you. I've been going so deep down AI as well, so it's just like kind of cool to nerd out with you as I know you're going pretty deep as well.
It was funny when you messaged and said, "Hey, can I be on the pod?" And I'm like, "We haven't actually done the pod yet, but sure, come on in as guest like
Right.
-1." So you're ahead of it. I love it. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So what's our story? How did we meet? Where did this start?
How did this start? You know what's funny is I don't think you know this part, but you wrote the really amazing compensation Bible, right? Which I'm sure a lot of people found you through. And I saw that promoted on LinkedIn, and I wanted to understand both for myself and my team members how we can do compensation better.
Mm,
And we connected from there, and it's been a really, really fun friendship as we've
right.
done more and more. And then I ordered your VP book like a few weeks after that, and all those other things.
That makes sense. So that's a totally different lifetime ago. That is, yeah, all
Yeah,
the executive compensation and executive community stuff. But I mean,
yeah.
what I remember about you meeting you was you were the only one in the whole executive community that was like actually happy with your job. Like everyone else
Mm,
was
mhm.
miserable and looking for a new job and wanting to
Yeah.
negotiate new offers. And you were like, I'm pretty happy. I like AppSumo. I like what I'm doing in tech, and
Yeah.
like, just seemed pretty appeased.
You're right. I remember being an outlier with that too. It was more about maximizing my opportunity and maximizing our team and our results and the ROI and everything. But generally, compared to a lot of people in the community, I felt like, oh yeah, I'm actually okay. You don't have to worry about me, guys. I'm all right.
Yeah, well, I like bringing the positive energy. We can get grumpy and grouch about things too, but I like starting off the
Totally.
positive. So, tell us about your job. What is AppSumo? What do you do there? Like, set the 1 minute origin story.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm the founding general manager of AppSumo Originals, and we created this brand within AppSumo to launch a bunch of SaaS products in the B2C space. Today, we've grown those products since I've been there from zero to over 1 million users collectively. We actually just hit that benchmark recently. And we look at revenue a little bit differently because we're lifetime deals, but this is basically the equivalent of a $6 to $7 million per year business with about 7 employees. So we do about $1 million in
What
revenue
employee
per
number were
employee
you?
per year.
You said you were like founding
Uh,
whatever. Like, how early were you?
Literally one.
Oh, it was Noah, founder, and then you
Yeah,
were the next guy he brought on, the first guy he
yeah,
brought on. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that's why I was like poking around, and you've got this infinite scroll, which makes it hard to get down to this about section. But like, I go to the
yeah,
about section, and I'm looking through the team because meet the team, and I'm like, oh, where's David? Where's David? And he's
yeah,
buried you down here somewhere.
yeah,
And I'm like, where is
yeah.
it? But oh, this might update automatic because before you were right next to Noah, and now you're somewhere
I
else.
think it randomizes. Yeah, I think we did a
Mm,
randomization to make it equal. You know how those things go.
that's funny. I don't think I've ever seen that before. But okay, so you were employee number literally one at AppSumo,
Mhm.
and now how many
Yeah.
people are here? This is like 70 people, 80 people, something like that.
So, correction, I was employee number one of AppSumo
Okay.
Originals. When we started AppSumo Originals, it's kind of interesting, right? Noah was like, hey, I want to create this sister brand to AppSumo to diversify our revenue streams.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lesson in that for a lot of founders and builders. How do we think about diversifying and how do we think about building a very strong foundation? So he brought me on board to help him build this new business that has resulted in 9 different products over 7 to 8 years, of which many of them have grown very well. Some of them have been middling. And then, of course, we've had some failures too. So
And
everything in
original
between.
products being like apps you were building and managing like internally from scratch.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So TidyCal, SendFox, BreezeDoc, and King Sumo are our most famous ones.
Yeah.
We also had Sumo Me, which a lot of people know, but we sold Sumo Me a few years ago to better focus the business.
Hmm. Okay. So I mean, I'm trying to make this not a corporate podcast. This is more the vibe
Yeah.
Cody ship rats get scrappy kind of podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was really interested to talk to you about this because you have such an interesting perspective here, working with so many different apps, so many different companies, building from scratch, as well as like building a marketplace of apps, and I assume working with founders directly and all that on some of the deals. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to get into that and how you see the whole vibe coding thing, maybe
Yes.
changing what's going on and what you're doing internally. But before we do that, I have to ask for one good Noah Kagan story. I need to kick us off with some, like, you've worked with him for so
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
He's a character. He is like the founder of AppSumo. He's in that whole, I don't want to
Yeah.
call it the poor man's PayPal mafia or something, but the whole like club of Sam Parr, Sean Purry, Neville, Nick Gray,
Yes.
like all those
Andrew
guys,
Chen. Yeah. All those
scrappy
guys.
internet founder dudes. So like there must be some good story. Like give me one juicy, what's a
Yeah.
good Noah story?
So here's a really interesting Noah story. And I've been very blessed to hang out with a lot of Noah's friends. And I also worked for Ramit Sethi at one point. So I've been able to put like a foot into that community of really successful internet entrepreneurs. And one thing that I really appreciate about Noah is behind the scenes, he's very similar to how he is in front of the camera that everyone sees. I'd say one thing Noah is exceptional at, and this leads to a funny story, is he just asks for things better than most people. I think so. If he just wants something, he asks for it. And one of my favorite stories was probably, I've known him for over 10 years, probably about 6 years ago. We went to a New England Patriots game in the Boston area. His former partner was from the Boston area. I grew up in the Boston area, so we kind of met there and went to a New England Patriots game. And we went to a tailgate party, just kind of wandering around the parking lot, just hanging out, experiencing the vibes of this tailgate. And Noah's like, I actually want a beer. And we didn't bring any beers to tailgate because we were arriving pretty late. So he just went around to random people at the tailgate and he's like, hey, do you have a beer and can I have a beer? And what was really funny to watch is there were a couple people that were just like, who are you? Like, of course I'm not going to give you a beer. But he didn't get defeated and he just went to like the next person in the line and just like, hey, can I have a beer? And he eventually got a couple beers for free. And we had a little pregame before we went into the game.
At bats. I do remember him like having videos on just ask for discounts at coffee shops or just ask
Yeah.
for room upgrades at hotels. Like just, the worst they can say is no. So I actually really buy that. If you don't ask, you don't get. And that ties into the whole like negotiation thing you used to do
Absolutely.
too. But I
Yeah.
love it. Beers at the Patriots
Yeah.
game. So good
And there's
stuff.
a frugality and a focus as well that I really respect that I think a lot of founders, especially as we enter into this AI era, should have. He also goes into Trader Joe's or used to every morning and just get free coffee, like those free mini coffee cups. And I'm just like, Noah, like you can clearly afford to buy coffee. Like, why are you doing this? And he was just like, oh, I like free things. And like, if I have the opportunity to get a free thing instead of paying for it, it doesn't really matter how much money one has. I always found that interesting.
Because that's who I am. That's why I was successful in other areas. And yeah, it
Exactly.
tracks. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if any other fun stories crop up, shout them out. We can always interrupt. I'm down for those.
Yeah.
So I've got the AppSumo website here in front of us, and for anyone who's not seen it, I mean, AppSumo's been around a long time, and I think most people in tech are at least aware of it. It's a deals website, right? Like where different software providers come and feature their products for discounts and whatnot. So again, the angle of this podcast being like how things are changing, what vibe coding is doing, all of this. I feel like I've got to ask the uncomfortable question first, which is like, a lot of these apps in here, they're not your Salesforces or HubSpots or like, big household brand names. They're, the next level of them. But a lot of them feel like something you could build in a weekend with AI. So what is stopping the vibe coders from like going to this website, seeing what's hot and popular, and cloning things themselves and selling them for cheaper? Like, how do you feel vibe coding is going to impact what AppSumo does?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. And I think there's a distinction between AppSumo, the marketplace more broadly, and then the division I run of AppSumo Originals. So I could talk about it in both realms. One is when I think more broadly about SaaS, and as Sam Altman infamously said a few days ago, which is now circulating, us entering the fast fashion era of SaaS with AI. There are a few considerations I have. The first is a lot of people are going to be able to create products quicker than ever. However, that does not mean the product becomes a sustainable business. So I posted on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about how creating a product is really like 33% of creating a successful business. We also need to understand, is there even a market opportunity of people who have the ability and the willingness to pay? And then we have to understand, how do we interact with our customer base to continue to find and identify product market fit? And then once we have product market fit, to expand horizontally into different markets or improve our feature set so that we build a sustainable business. So there's an over indexing I'm seeing right now on like, let's just build products, which is great, but it isn't how to necessarily build a profitable business, or it's a small part of building a profitable business. So where I think AppSumo really separates itself is, and whether someone uses AppSumo to sell their product or not is kind of irrelevant in this sense, but distribution is becoming really important. When we have a lot of noise and creation and people can just launch a vibe coded product with Lovable or Bolt or Replit over a weekend, there's a lot of noise when they post about it on LinkedIn. How do they get customers to their product? And a lot of people vibe coding don't think about that part. They think if they just put it out there, people will naturally come. And that typically is not how the growth of our products have worked.
Well, that's what you've wrestled with for long before vibe coding. You building your own originals products and trying to, have sustainable businesses around them. I mean, for anyone who's looking to build a business, vibe coding, though, I feel like this is one way they would get ideas. They would come to a site like AppSumo, or go to Product Hunt, or go to What's Hot in Hacker News or Reddit or whatever, and see, okay, what's hot? It shows you on the screen right here. These 4 apps are like the hottest ones at the moment, apparently. So, one might think, oh, okay, clone that, go sell that. It seems to have some sort of product market fit and audience, and for half the price, because I'm doing it as a 1-person team or something. So that's where the original question was. And for you probably won't say it, but I'll say it, and you can like blink twice if it's true or not. That like is that not what Originals does anyway? It's like sees what's popular on AppSumo, and then, oh, that could be a great spin-off, and then go build your own, right? So I don't know if we're just going to have an explosion of that, but you are right that like there are just going to be more flooding, like just more apps built than ever, and distribution's the way that the moat, or what's going to actually separate the wheat from the chaff. So like tell us about that. Right. How have you built the distribution side with your apps from scratch?
Yeah, and by the way, you're so right, with some nuance, right? So like, one thing we think about with Originals products is building in competitive markets where there's popularity and where there's a user base or a customer base that we think we can attract to our product. So I always tell people, like, don't be afraid of competitive markets. Competitive markets are pre-validated for your ideas. So we don't necessarily look at always what's popular on AppSumo, and we have relationships with partners that we want to be careful about on the original side. But we often look at, what is our user base using? Are they using DocuSign? Are they using Calendly? And that's how some of our ideas kind of came through. So once we start to think about that creation process and going into competitive markets, building differentiated products, whether through simplicity or pricing or a certain feature set or targeting a segment, then to your question about distribution, we start to think about where do our customers live online. And right now, and this is somewhat unusual for people probably listening to this who are starting out, but I want to say like what the end vision is because it's actually very exciting and I think it'll motivate a lot of people. We've created 9 products. Roughly 30% of them, a little bit higher, have reached $1 million in revenue or over. And partly it's because we have this great distribution network that formed when we created King Sumo and SendFox back in 2018. And then what we've done is we've used that existing user base to cross-sell our existing products. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard at the beginning, but I want to encourage people to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that once you build 1 to 2 things successfully or whatever number, continuing to, as we see it, like expand the onion of what that existing user base needs and solve other problems for them with other products or solutions makes it a lot easier. So for now, as an example, we can send an email out to our user base announcing a new product. If it has decent product market fit, and if we've spent enough time building it in the right way and all these things, we can make like $30,000 to $40,000 in a month at a lifetime deal price of like $29 to $39. So that's like a few thousand paying customers.
And you said that's some number of them are at $1 million already. Like what's that time to million look like the more products you add? If your audience is bigger and bigger and you're saying, oh, we're just stacking and it gets easier with everyone we launch, like have you seen that time to million shrink or whatever metric you use?
Yes and no. Here's what's interesting. It's like we track time to 100K and time to ROI positivity and then time to $1 million as well, right? Oh. So like what's kind of fascinating is our most successful product ever is Tidy Cow, which has grown at different inflection points over the past 3 to 4 years and now has roughly 300,000 registered users inside that product alone, right? So every product is almost like a child in that it has its own.
But the parents, it sounds like, were the first 2 products. So it was what were they? Foxy Cleopatra. What was the first? The 2?
SendFox and King Sumo. I would say probably the parents are Noah and myself.
I mean, rewind to the first 2 though, because that's where most people are at. Like, what were give us like 1 or 2 inflection points on those first 2, like. How did you wade through the primordial soup and go from 0 to that, first meaningful number? Like, was it, I know Noah's got his personal brand. Was it a lot of his content that was these are built on, or was it completely something else? Like, how did you get those 2 to take off?
Yeah. So I think this is a really good learning, regardless of vibe coding or not vibe coding. Again, this is like going back to what we said about the 33%. This is a foundational part of how to grow a business. And it's like, AI is a tool that helps accelerate or polish or do other things to the process, but the process and the foundation stays the same. So let's take SendFox as an example. We came up with the idea for SendFox in 2018, and now AI can help you come up with ideas faster, but our hypothesis was a lot of people are using email providers. We think we can provide a simpler, more affordable email marketing tool. An alternative to MailChimp or to ConvertKit or now even Beehive that is just built for solopreneurs and content creators. The way we started thinking about getting customers for that is we built an MVP. We try to build an MVP as fast as possible with AI that's now easier than possible, so easier than it's ever been before. So I would recommend people continue to go down that MVP with a Lovable or Bolt or Replit path. Then our hypothesis was, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to reach out to people in our newsletter inbox who have sent from MailChimp or ConvertKit. So like I quite literally just searched in my Gmail and looked for people that were sending newsletters from MailChimp. And then I would send them an email. Hey, we created a tool that's half the price of MailChimp. Let me know if you're interested. Here's what's interesting, and here's where it gets kind of fascinating, because this is a part that is tough to shortcut regardless of AI. AI can help accelerate it, but this is where it gets interesting. We actually didn't see much traction doing that to big senders. We'd go to Noah's friends like Ryan Holiday, Shane Snow, Andrew Chen, and they'd all be like, no, I'm not interested. The reason why is because what was more important to them than cutting $200, $300, even $1,000 per month is just like not worrying about leaving their existing mailing list provider. When their net worth is deca millions or whatever it actually is, it's like saving a few thousand a year doesn't really matter for them. It's more about their brand and reputation. So then we had to pivot, and we decided to go after smaller senders. So I would go and just like outreach a bunch of people on LinkedIn and all these other places who looked like they were content creators or whose newsletters I could find, and they were smaller senders. And we started to see some traction with that.
So you were hand bombing, like outbounding small senders and just scrapping together that first set of customers.
Yep. Basically, the first 1,000 customers were me for like a 4-month period.
1,000.
Just grinding every day, meeting like 10 to 15 people every day. It was very, very exhausting.
Isn't that the truth? That like you just explained first, like the sexy growth hack, which was like going through your inbox and trying to, kind of game it, figure out who's sending from what, reach out. And then in the end, it was like, a much more grunt kind of effort that like actually worked and reached out and, led to the first ones.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I've been busy like playing with clay tables and automations and ChatGPT and Anthropic and trying to set up all these like complex, go find customers, go do these things. And it can help, and the research element can help with AI. And I think it's really important to understand and stay on the cutting edge of AI. However, sometimes we just have to do the manual low tech option, which is just like, I have a solution. There are people out there that want it. Let me go find them. If it's taking me more time to automate the process than it is to actually go get my first 10 customers manually, I think we're overcompensating in the wrong way temporarily.
But it sounds like you did build the product first and then went and found customers. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll tell people like, do it the reverse, like build an audience around something you're passionate about and then figure out a product to sell them and work with the audience to build it so that you have like automatic distribution from day one. So piece of advice I frequently give is like post 100 times on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, because they're the only places really right now where you can get attention without any following. So within 100 posts, you'll actually have a couple probably take off, and then you'll
that's cool.
be able to start with something rather than nothing. But both can work. I mean, like clearly this is done really well. I am curious how, now you mentioned the Replets and Lovables and, building today versus yesterday. And if you had to run your department, like if you had to run AppSumo right now with only, call it like 3 people, because now you've got a whole host of like AI tools that help. Who would those 3 people be, and what roles would they play? I don't know how big your particular team is right now, but like say you only get 2 or 3 heads. How would you think about a small, like really nimble team of people to like do the same thing?
So I think it's totally possible to do that. And I think a lot of companies are going to do that. If I were to, let's say, reorg Originals from the ground up tomorrow, and by the way, I think our team is excellent and I don't want to reorg at all, and we don't plan to. So I just want to be very clear about that.
Flashing warning on the screen.
Right. Now. Yeah. But our team members are going to see me and they're going to be like, oh my God, are we getting laid off? And absolutely not is the answer. But if I were to start this, let's say from the beginning, or focus on, let's say, AI generation, there are 3 roles I'd probably hire or focus on. One is a designer, a developer, and like a support lead. So what we notice with AI code is like it gets to 50, 60, 70, 80%, whatever. But we need someone who can actually take that AI code and do it well. Or let's say optimize the code base over time. And then similar with design, it's like I want someone that can come in and tweak the design. So for both those team members, AI becomes a part of their role and it becomes a part of their process, but it doesn't necessarily replace them. And I think that's what I really want to emphasize, where like AI is a tool. And in my opinion, it is a generational tool that is only getting better. And the stuff it can do and will be able to do, even within the past 24 hours with GPT-5, which I've been playing with, is mind-blowingly crazy. However, there is still human intervention required, and we're seeing AI hit like blocking points that need technical people to help solve. So I would keep those two people, and then support at our scale with 1 million users and then their users. So we're talking about like tens of millions of people interact with Originals tools per month.
Mm-hmm.
The support person would be, which is kind of what our support lead does now, be optimizing around AI to teach these AI systems how to help our customer base.
I like that answer. I want to disagree with it for the sake of the podcast and arguments, but I don't really. I feel like I nod along because anything I've built with these vibe coding tools, like I've actually launched, I've got customers, I've got money coming in, and I've built kind of my first vision of it, but man, there is this point that I hit where I'm like, I would just want a developer to come in here and like be responsible for the security of it, for the QA, for the unit test, for all that bullshit I don't want to do, yet is extremely important. So like that technical resource, I feel for my stuff is still really important. It would be like an early hire. And then to continue developing as, you know, I might move into more business development side, like, yeah, the design half maybe becomes equally important, and then customer support. So I like your answer. Too bad. A different question for you. So what is in AppSumo hell versus AppSumo heaven? Like, what are the patterns and differences between the apps you've built that like thrive and the ones that vanish and die and are terrible?
Yeah. It's such a great question, because this is where I think AI can help accelerate this process, right? So over 8 years, we've launched roughly 9 products. There were years where we launched a bunch, and then there were years where we didn't launch any new products because we saw traction with our existing products. So we just kind of rode that for X amount of time. Now, what's fascinating is for all 9 products, maybe even if I simplified, maybe for like 6 to 7 of the products, the signals were very similar that we thought they would be successful. So when we look at like a RICE framework or a similar kind of grading framework before we created them, 6 to 7 of the products were like nearly identical. Like we saw that competitors were making similar amounts of revenue across the board. We saw that the ease of creating, we saw that we had subject matter expertise. We saw that like the score was essentially the same. But only 3 of those products have generated over $1 million. So the question is, why, right? And this is where I think we get into both the art and science of building a product and why AI is such an accelerant. Our goal is to create products as quickly as possible because we can look at the RICE framework and we can think we have the best concept in mind, and we can think there's equality in every single one of the products will be $1 million+ product. But the reality is, it just doesn't always work that way. So here's a really great example. We launched this product called Sleek Bio in 2021, which was meant to be a better version of Linktree.
Is it still there if I search Sleek Bio?
Yeah, we don't sell it anymore. Oh. It's called Sleek, SLEEK.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, oh, we'll just make a better version of Linktree. Like, this is just a no-brainer. And you could see here we got good reviews. We integrated with some of our other products. We were really happy about the product. Mm-hmm. However, it did not sell well at all. And the reason why is somewhat circumstantial in some ways. In 2021, for some reason, just like a lot of people were working on these link and bio tools. So Shopify released a free one a few months after we released Sleek Bio. A few other competitors popped on the scene. So we don't always know. And I think the heaven and hell difference is we try to create as quickly as possible with a hypothesis in mind. We try to go out and find customers as quickly as possible. And now AI helps in both those realms for us. And then if we see traction, we're like, great, double down. If we don't, we're like, okay, just let it do its thing and we move on. And there's some nuance there where like maybe we spend a little bit more time, and it isn't always an exact science to like at 90 days, if we don't have the X amount generated, there's watching trend lines and trying to understand KPIs and the opportunity and the market size and things like that. But it is somewhat unpredictable, which is why the short answer to how to deal with heaven and hell is just launch things with hypotheses, have KPIs you track, make decisions to continue or move on to something else.
So are you with these tools? I mean, you said you've launched not, or you have 9 now. Are you trying to launch 90 this year because you can go 10 times faster, or like is there a KPI you have for doing way more in the next couple of years?
So there's a possibility we go down that path. I think the thing we're using AI pretty heavily for, which is somewhat unique, and I don't see many people talking about this as much, is like 0 to 1 vibe coding. Great. A lot of people are talking about how to do that. There are a lot of solutions on how to do that. What we're using AI to accelerate now is not always launching, although that is part of it, let's say 50%. But the other 50% is like, how do we use AI to accelerate our product planning and our improvements of existing products? How do we increase our release cadence on existing products by like 10x so that we're always staying ahead of competitor features? We're always adding, we're always pushing features, we're always shipping new updates, we're always fixing bugs. I think that's a part that a lot of people get to 0 to 1 and they're like, great, I have my product and like it's out there. And then they're like, what do I do?
Hmm.
And the other side of AI is it helps accelerate the planning and the improvement process and cycle.
And when you say AI, are you talking about just like Cursor, Windsurf lets us do all that a lot better, or are you imagining other tools? Like what's in your AI bucket?
So my AI toolkit is pretty agnostic. I don't subscribe to the one model theory, as I think many people don't anymore either. There are just so many good ones. So I'm using Warp as my integrated development environment, IDE,
Hmm.
and I have Claude Code in there, which helps with planning purposes. But then I'll also use Claude AI like the chatbot, right? And I'll use ChatGPT, and I'll even use Perplexity sometimes,
Hmm.
or Gemini 2.5 Pro. I actually know there are some things and notice there are some things Gemini 2.5 Pro is excellent at that the other tools can't do. And same with GPT. So I'm doing it and I'm using it in a more technical sense, but we can also just use prompting in the chatbots and be like, hey, this is kind of the context and I need help planning and I need you to help me do research. And there are some really great prompts to do that. I want to show you something because I think you'll find it really interesting. So let me share my screen.
Hmm.
And you can, I mean, even if you want to, you can clip this out and use it
Hmm.
for stuff. But like, I think you'll find it really interesting. So, especially for your product, because it's a little more mature. So this is Warp. I use Warp as my IDE, like I said, into my Claude dev folder. So I'm just going to tell Warp to go into my Claude dev folder. But are you using Linear at all? Have you started using this?
Not myself.
So Linear is getting a lot of hype because it's like a better version of Jira with just like a bazillion MCP connections, which is really, really cool. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the Claude. I'm going to start Claude Code.
Hmm.
Cool. And here's something I want to show you as it relates to like maybe as you plan your product. So
Hmm.
let's say, here we go. So here's a feature that was mentioned in BreezeDoc. We've since implemented this feature, but I'm going to show you how it looks. So it's like, you are a product manager. One of our stakeholders for BreezeDoc asked for the following feature. And it's as easy as this, right? So they asked for this, counter signature workflows.
Hmm.
Please research what this means in competitors and create a simple one-page overview at a high level of this feature. This feature should not be technically verbose and it should be understandable from a technical and non-technical leader overview. It should include brief why, case studies, any small technical notes, etc. You may check my local BreezeDoc repo to understand more context on suggestions, right?
Hmm.
So like, I just type this out and then Claude Code gets to work, right? And it does its thing. And then here's what's kind of crazy about linear. So what I can say now that linear is integrated and there's an easy process to do that is what I can do from here, and I won't do this, but it'll be cool to hear how it's done. I can be like, hey, go create a issue inside of linear. Like go create this as an issue or like a page or whatever you want to call it. Then what I can do with Claude Code, which is crazy, is I can be like, okay, Claude Code, I could actually, let me step back. I can then use something like Chat PRD potentially to be like, okay, go clean this up. I can use an MCP in linear for ChatGPT. I can be like, ChatGPT, go clean up this linear issue and put it in official PRD format.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could go to Claude Code and I could say, hey, take this linear issue, give me a plan for how to implement it in my code. And then if I like the plan or don't like the plan, I can be like, great, go do it for me and submit a PR, which is really nuts.
And you're still going through the whole PRD, like very standard software development process to get it to the point where it's kind of like looked everything over. It won't make mistakes. It's done deep enough research that like you don't have to worry about it as much messing anything up in the code base. Is kind of, you're just getting it to mimic like a real project manager software developer.
I am. It's slightly different for us. How I would do this for your product is different because we have developer and designer. I'm actually having it create very high level non-technical overviews. So like here was a feature it mentioned. So our team said like, hey, we want to approve a workflow for BreezeDoc. Cross-functional stakeholder who wants to use BreezeDoc. And I'm like, some of these will do, some of these we won't. So I prompted Claude to create this, and it's like overview, what we're building, current, how it works, implementation approach, technical considerations, looking at the code base. So I could use Chat PRD and be like, hey, Chat PRD, clean this up into an official PRD. But my technical team actually prefers it like this because they're like, hey, we don't want it too technically verbose because we want to take this and then go through our technical planning process. So they're basically like, stay in your lane to make our lives easier.
I mean, that feels very helpful for anyone stepping into a new role, like a company that, you know, has to work within their existing framework. I feel like that whole prompt you gave it, as you said, I would, you know, just kind of go straight to prototyping development. Like I would probably, because I'm a one-man show, just tell Lovable or Replit or Bolt or whatever to do it and see what came out. But that's, I mean, this is getting into think a little bit more and incorporating other team members. So I like that.
Right. And I think like for researching features, right? Like here's how it researched a feature too. So you're right that like you could just skip some of these steps, but I tend to like to see what it plans before it actually does it, because you probably notice this too. Like sometimes if I don't plan or understand enough ahead, it's like AI will start going off the rails. And then I'm just like, oh man, like I kind of now have to start at the beginning again. And I have to like re-prompt it and give it better context and all this other stuff. So this is kind of what it does. And then I can even tab and it's like, please create an implementation plan to launch this feature inside BreezeDoc. You may look at the existing code base on my local to come up with the most efficient plan, right? So let's say I like everything above, then it's like I can start to create a plan. And if I were a one-man dev shop, this is exactly what I'd do. I'd be like, okay, plan it. And then I'd be like, okay, go implement it and push out a PR. And then I would look at the PR and be like, does this work or make sense? Maybe, I guess, and see how it goes.
You know what's really interesting about this is it reminds me of, there's like a Stephen King-ism, which is basically like there are two types of writers. So there are writers who like outline their stories. They plan it, their chapter by chapter. They know their turning points, their midpoints, their denouement. They have it all like PRD'd out, and then they go and they write their story.
Yeah.
There are other writers who are fly by the seat of their pants. Stephen King himself says, I feel much more like a paleontologist. Like I just start dusting away at a dinosaur bone and more kind of like reveals itself as I'm doing it. So I feel like both work. It kind of depends on what your style is, whether you are an outliner and, you know, figure things out beforehand, or you're a roll up the sleeves, dive in, and just like roll with the punches and what it spits out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've definitely gotten myself into some gnarly knots doing it the second way. But none of them have been completely untangleable. And I wonder if I would be in planning phase too long, if you could just get too caught up in that. But
You're right.
I haven't thought of it exactly like this in terms of like just working on a little bit more of a plan up front with the system and using it as more of a thought partner to like come up with the PRDs and the MVP before like actually starting to code.
Totally. Yeah, take it where it fits, and it might not fit everywhere. And you could even see like here, it created this plan, and I rejected it because I don't want to implement it. But it's like, hey, here's a database migration. Here's what you got to update. Here's like how I do email notifications. So as a code base gets more and more complex, there's probably more and more emphasis on planning correctly.
Yes.
But in the early days, you're right. It's like we don't want to use a hammer assuming everything is a nail. It's like use the right tool at the right time.
Well,
And
this is
in the early
probably
days-
like, this is probably less vibey and more responsible, more like, try and foresee some issues before they happen and think through this thoughtfully and yada, yada, yada. Whereas the real like, vibe way is crack a beer and like,
just YOLO.
let's, see what it spits out sort of thing. But
Right.
both
It's
both
like
can be fun.
I visualize someone with a beer and a cigarette and a hat, and they're just like enter, enter, enter.
Uh-huh. That's what it feels like. Okay, so
Agreed.
you've talked about some of the tools, you've talked about the team, how you might like, orient it around like AI first and what that smaller like team might look like. So one more, like with the ideas themselves, where are you getting your ideas these days? And this can be for AppSumo, this can be in your own like your own side projects and side hustles or whatever. But like, I guess the question is, if I gave you 48 hours, a laptop, and $100, what are you shipping? Where's your idea? Where does it come from?
I love this thought. I think about this thought a lot and how the AI proliferation has changed things. So here's what I would do in 48 hours with $100. The first thing I would do is immediately go to ChatGPT or some of these other tools that give insight into what people are wanting on the market, right? So one tool I've heard about is ideapicker.io, which identifies what people are asking for on Reddit. So I would go to GPT-5, I would go to ideapicker.io, and my prompt would look something like, hey, my day job is a SaaS general manager in the B2C space. I want to create a product this weekend for under $100 that I can grow to $1 million this year in ARR, let's say. And then I would say something like, please give me 10 ideas in the B2C SaaS space that have highly profitable competitors. And by the way, the first thing I would do, I always think about this with prompting. Here's a prompting tip. An official Google Gemini guide came out and they're like, this is how you prompt better. One of the things they say is tell the AI the role it plays. So at the very beginning, I would actually say something like this. I would say, you are a business analyst. And then the rest of the prompt has context and the task and everything. And now I would just hit enter and see what kind of happens.
Nice. Let's see. I like that you throw in those pleases. You're one of those be nice to the AI just in case people,
Right.
Okay, we got some stuff. We got some AI resume cover letters, some meal planners for special diets. Oh my God. Yep. Okay, I'll be your first customer because we've got peanut, dairy, egg, gluten-free, vegan, everything in this house when the grandparents join. So, okay, I'm not even going further. We're doing number 2. But.
So that's a cool signal to me because here's what I would say, right? I would think about which of these ideas, and by the way, I am very often conversing with AI and reprompting, editing my prompts, getting more specific, asking follow-up questions.
Mhm.
But hearing you say AI meal planner for special diets and you're interested in that, I'm like, oh, cool, that could be really interesting. So then my thought goes, and we could even play this out. It's like, I have a friend who is interested in AI meal planner for special diets. He has family members with a lot of different dietary restrictions.
Mhm.
Give me a 4-week plan for how to build this product.
Mhm.
Or even more specifically, in the 48 hours, I would say, tell me exactly what I need to do over the next 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. How to do number 2 in the next 48 hours, something like that.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
it's so interesting because so now we're zooming out. Now we're trying to look like a year further down the road where it's easier for anyone to do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always I'm having a little bit of an existential like, will most people going forward build or buy apps? Will they, like, if I needed
Mm,
my meal planner, like I clearly do, will I just be going and building it myself because it's just for me and my family and I don't need to like monetize or
right.
come up with a whole business around it? Or will I continue to buy something if someone made this? Would I pay $10 a month for it, kind of thing?
It's a great question. And what I think we can feel sometimes in the tech space is like we do kind of have somewhat of a myopic focus in that, like, oh, everyone knows how to use AI.
Mm.
Here's what's interesting. The most successful business I know right now. So I know a lot of businesses that are up and down. Originals is up about 10% this year.
Mhm.
I know a business that's up like 50% year over year. And what they're doing is they're building church websites for churches.
Okay.
And he's like very low AI, very low tech. And I keep thinking about his business because what it is to me is a reminder that a lot of the world just doesn't care about AI. So my friend is just like, yeah, like we're booming right now because a lot of churches want websites. People are going back to churches. Churches want to look a little bit more professional now that they're like a little younger and you have all these younger people kind of leading the churches. So I do still think there's a ton of opportunity to build products that people who are outside of our realm in the tech space
Mhm.
would want to buy. But you're also right that we have to be very considerate. Like if some of these suggestions are very tech heavy, it's like, well, maybe this is too tech heavy and someone would actually just build this themselves. And there actually isn't
Mhm.
an ability or a willingness of a customer base to pay.
Well, you probably, yeah, have to find the Goldilocks formula there of
Yeah,
what's hard enough that people aren't going to be banging their heads against the wall to try and do it, but what's not easy enough that they'll just like ask ChatGPT. Because I mean, everyone's grandma knows ChatGPT now, and it can do some pretty cool stuff for them without them having to pay an
totally.
extra $10 a month or whatever. Um, but my other buddy, he always says like it's kind of like cars, like there will always be people who take their cars to the mechanic, even if it's as
Yeah.
simple as
Yeah.
putting air in the tires or an oil change or something. Like I don't think all of SaaS has to worry quite yet that all point solutions or apps are going away, but
Exactly.
I
Right. You're
do.
so right, man. It's so funny. It's like, I had like an issue with my car with like a light
Yeah,
or even changing the oil, and I like put a thing on Craigslist. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay you $20 if you just like come fix my tail light.
yeah.
And I had multiple people reach out to me where like, hey, this is so easy to do on your own. Just like do these 6 steps. And I was like, dude, I don't even want to think about this. Like, I'm just gonna pay you money to do it. So it's funny how like the difference when we're in the scene
Hmm.
is wildly different than being outside the
Hmm.
scene.
I do have this like get in, get out attitude though right now, where my
Mm,
crystal ball is fuzzy, like 3 to 5 years out, 5 to 10 years out. Like who knows when everything's just purely Jarvis and like we're all Tony Stark just asking our apps to do anything. So I'm like, if I'm going to make money with apps, I better do it in the next couple of years because I don't know what the longer term looks like. So anyway,
I think that's a really good truth. And I'd be curious, especially for people listening, like you are someone
oh,
I
nobody's
trust and
listening, by the way. We have
I
zero audience members. It's just us.
the two people who find this, which are me and you.
Anyhow, time is a ticking. I wanted to, before we wrap, do a little quick
Yeah.
fire, very fast questions. They don't have to have long answers, but give me your hot takes on some of these and we'll see what
Oh,
you
I
think.
can't wait.
What is the funniest AI fail you've ever seen?
Oh, I'll give you one that I tried very early. So this was like a year and a half to 2 years ago. I wanted to fully build an AI business, meaning from ideation to launch. And I wanted this to be like a physical product business. So I wanted it to come up with a name, come up with a brand, come up with a target audience, come up with products. So my girlfriend has a pug as a pet dog. So I came up, well, actually AI came up with Wrinkleware, which was a pug lifestyle brand. Created an Etsy store, created all these products. Some of them were okay, most of them were terrible. It sold $0 worth of products, and then I shut it down after a few months. So a colossal
Wait
fail.
a second. Was this was not clothes for pugs. This was clothes
Exactly.
inspired by
Yeah, and
pugs for people?
products inspired by pugs for people. So
Okay.
mouse pad, all this other stuff. But despite the fail, I like actually kind of love doing it because what I encourage people to do is like a lot of people are like, how do I get started with AI? Where do I know when it ends? And I'm like, try to create a business or do something stupid like I did, and then you'll inevitably see where it works well and doesn't. Then you'll have that data for continuing to stay on the cutting edge.
So next question, sort of related, but are you a build fast and break things, or are you build carefully and ship something you're proud of person?
I want to say both, but that's a cop out answer. I think
Can't say.
where I'm leaning right now is build fast and break things because especially with our products that we have at AppSumo Originals, we are trying to increase release cadence by like 4 to 5x per month in order to stay ahead of competitors and in order to make sure, to your point, someone couldn't vibe code an alternative in a weekend that people move to. We want a very complete feature set. The challenge is how we build a cohesive product within that feature set. And that's why I do think designers and developers are still important because they can strategically look at the vision in a way that AI can't. AI can be kind of our grunt work, like release, release, release. And then humans come in and say, hey, this looks tragic, or this is actually okay.
You only get one AI model for the rest of your life. Which one do you choose? OpenAI, Claude, Grok, or
Um,
Gemini?
I would choose Claude right now because Claude code is incredibly powerful. I would say that's my number one choice. I'm also going to give you an underrated. The most underrated model right now is Gemini 2.5 Pro. It is exceptional at giving in-app product copy suggestions. We've basically just put screenshots in there and been like, hey, I don't think our settings make sense. Please tell us exactly how you would change our settings. And it has been excellent at it. And that is a project that would have taken humans 7 different meetings and 3 weeks of conversations, all of which were very frustrating. And Gemini's like, hey, move this setting here, revise this name here, do this here. But if I had to choose one, I would still go with Claude because it is very, very powerful.
What's the last job AI will replace?
I would say actually my girlfriend's job, I love her perspective. She's an emergency nurse.
I thought you were just going to say my girlfriend is the
Also
last.
probably true. Maybe I should have stopped there. My girlfriend's job, she is a children's ER nurse at a level 1 trauma hospital in San Diego. I think AI is going to replace a lot of the healthcare industry. However, when someone has a serious medical condition that is quite literally life or death, I think they're going to want human intervention and they'll be willing to pay any amount for it because it's quite literally their life. So I think the healthcare industry will be around for a while. I think also electricians will be around for a while.
All right, last question. If you could vibe code with one historical figure, alive or dead, who is your pair
Oh man.
programmer?
God, I feel like this is such like a stupid answer that I'm about to say because like everyone talks about this guy and I kind of hate it, but I also am really curious. I'd be really curious what Steve Jobs' perspective would be now and to vibe code with him because he's someone who, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, has always seen the heart of products and has always been able to see like the softer side of building great products. And I'd be curious what he thinks of technology and automation just taking over a lot of this stuff that used to be a little bit softer. So I would love to know how he would build quality products in this era.
Don't get me started on how different I think the world would look if he was still here. You know, better, worse.
Yeah.
Guy's not God. He's not perfect, but like how much he transformed it and what he
Yeah,
could
that
do.
sounds like a second podcast. When this podcast is famous, Devin, you can come back and talk about it for your millions of listeners.
Well, thank you for being guest -1. I very much appreciate it. This is so much fun. And yeah, let's not be strangers.
Yeah, I
Let's
can't wait. I'm
see each
super
other soon.
excited to talk more about this. So best of luck to everyone building with AI and have so much fun out there.
Are you gonna make it happen today? Or will you just settle for another delay? Come on.